I won $2 million in the lottery, but chose to keep it a secret. To test my family's loyalty, I first asked them for help, but everyone declined, convinced I was just an old man living on a small pension. Only one person offered support, unaware of my win. Ironically, that's the person who will now inherit everything. The lottery ticket trembled gently in my worn hands as I carefully marked the familiar numbers. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42. Each number held a memory: Margaret's birthday, Tatum's, Finnegan's, Rodri's, and our wedding anniversary. The bonus number, 18, was for Ellis, my late brother's son. 20. The same amount I'd spent every month for the last 3 years. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Tatum's voice sliced through the crisp autumn air before her car door even clicked shut. I folded the ticket neatly and slid it into my shirt pocket, listening to her heels stomp angrily across the damp driveway. Without knocking, she stormed into the kitchen. "I saw you at Miller's Corner store." 20. "Dad, $20 while I'm canceling appointments because I can't afford gas." "Good afternoon to you too, sweetheart," I said calmly, seated at the kitchen table with my hands folded. She snatched the ticket from my pocket before I could react. "These stupid numbers. You really think you're going to win? That some magical fairy will make us rich? Give that back, Tatum." "No." She waved the ticket like it was evidence in court. "Do you know I owe $1,850 for Kayla and Mason's school supplies?" $1,850? I stood slowly, knees aching. "I've given you $3,200 this year. Finnegan got $4,800. Rodri, $2,100. You want me to list every grocery bill, every electric payment, every emergency car repair?" Her face flushed red. "That's different. That's family helping family. This is my money helping my hope." "Your hope," I whispered. "You're 68 years old, Dad," she spat back bitterly. "You live on a pension and Social Security. Every dollar counts. Every dollar I earn." My voice lowered. "Every dollar I saved working double shifts at the factory while you kids were growing up. Every dollar I chose not to spend on myself so you could have decent clothes and school lunches." She gripped the ticket tighter. "I'm not asking for much. You're asking for everything." The words hit harder than I meant. "You want my lottery ticket money. Finnegan wants my investment decisions. Rodri wants my emergency fund. When do I get to want something?" Tatum's eyes narrowed. "What you want is stupid. What I want is mine." She stared at me, the kitchen clock ticking between us. Outside, rain began to tap against the window. Finally, she tossed the ticket on the table. "Fine. Waste your money. But don't come crying to me when you're eating cat food because you spent your last 20 on pipe dreams." The front door slammed so hard the coffee cups rattled. I watched her Toyota spin gravel as she backed out, the red tail lights disappearing around the corner, leaving only rain and silence. I picked up the lottery ticket, smoothing the creases her fingers had left. The numbers stared back, family birthdays and anniversaries that once meant celebration, now felt like accusations. 5 hours later, as the autumn darkness settled over Milford, I sat alone with cold coffee. The lottery ticket lay on the table beside yesterday's newspaper. Then my phone rang. The soup was just starting to bubble when the call came. I'd been stirring the chicken noodle, steam rising from the pot, trying not to think of Tatum's harsh words echoing in my empty house. Finnegan's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, Dad," his voice careful, like he was managing a delicate situation. "Tatum called me earlier. She's pretty upset." I set down the spoon and leaned on the counter. "I imagine she is. She said you bought another lottery ticket today, 20. "That's right." There was a pause. I could hear keyboard clicks. He was still at his downtown office working late on some project to prove his worth. "Dad, we've talked about this." 20 might not seem like much, but it adds up. That's 240 a year. Over 5 years, what would 200? Mathematics was always your strong suit, son. His tone sharpened. I'm serious. You're on a fixed income. Every expense should be carefully considered. I gripped the phone tighter. Like the $7,300 credit card debt you couldn't cover last year. The debt I paid off so your credit wouldn't be ruined. Silence. That was different. That was an investment opportunity that didn't pan out. And this is my investment in hope. Hope doesn't pay bills, Dad. Neither did your cryptocurrency venture, your friend's restaurant, or that multi-level marketing scheme you swore would make you rich. Those were calculated risks based on market research. No, I said, turning off the stove. Those were gambles, just like this lottery ticket. The only difference is, I admit mine. Finnegan sighed heavily. Look, I'm not trying to control your life. I just want you to make smart financial decisions. Mom always said, don't. The words cut sharper than I meant. Don't use your mother to justify treating me like a child. That's not what I'm doing, is it? You call me, lecture me about 20 while I send you 400 every month for emergencies. When was the last time you asked how I'm doing? When did you last visit just to visit? Another pause. The keyboard clicking stopped. I care about you, Dad. We all do. That's why we worry when we see you making poor choices. Poor choices. I stared at the lottery ticket, held on the fridge by a sunflower magnet, Margaret's favorite. 20 for a chance to imagine a different life. 20 for 30 seconds of what if. Finnegan, I need to ask you something. Sure. If I really won the lottery, what would you do? He laughed. Dad, the odds are like 20 million to 1. That's not what I asked. After a long pause, he answered carefully, I'd be happy for you, of course, and I'd hope you'd be smart about it. Get financial advice. Make sure it's invested properly. Invested properly? By whom? Well, I have experience with financial planning. I hung up. The dial tone buzzed before I set the phone down. The soup had stopped bubbling. The kitchen suddenly felt colder, as if all the warmth had drained away through the phone line. I walked over to the refrigerator and stared at the lottery ticket once more. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42. Bonus, 18. My family reduced to numbers on a small piece of paper. Numbers that might mean nothing, or they might mean everything. 8 days remained until the lottery drawing. 8 days spent screening my children's calls, eating quiet dinners alone, wondering exactly when I had become nothing more to them than a walking bank account. Thursday night found me in my recliner, the TV remote resting on my knee as I aimlessly flipped through channels. The house felt emptier at night, shadows stretching from the corners where Margaret's furniture once stood. I had sold most of it after she died, too many memories for one old man to carry alone. Channel 7 flickered to life just as the familiar lottery music began. Jennifer Martinez, the local anchor who'd drawn numbers for 15 years, smiled with practiced warmth. Good evening, Ohio. Tonight's jackpot is 1 million. Let's see if we have a winner. I reached for my coffee cup, only to find it empty. The lottery ticket lay on my side table, tucked behind a photo of Margaret holding baby Tatum. After Finnegan's call, I had moved it from the fridge, keeping it closer somehow. The first number is 7. My hand froze halfway to the cup. Second number, 14. I picked up the ticket with suddenly clumsy fingers. 7, 14. Margaret's birthday. Tatum's birthday. Third number, 23. Finnegan's birthday. I held the ticket closer to the lamp, comparing the printed numbers to those Jennifer read aloud. This can't be happening. Fourth number, 31. Rodri's birthday. My heart pounded against my ribs as if trying to break free. I reread the ticket again and again, certain I was mistaken. The fifth number is 42. Our wedding anniversary. 42 years compressed into a single digit on a slip of paper that suddenly felt electric in my hands. And the bonus number, 18. Ellis, my nephew's birthday. The boy I barely knew but loved nonetheless, the son of my brother who died too young. I had added 18 on a whim 3 years ago, believing families should stick together, even on lottery tickets. Jennifer Martinez's voice drifted on about checking numbers carefully, claiming procedures, and winners having 180 days to come forward, but her words sounded distant, underwater. I stood too quickly and nearly dropped the ticket. $1 million. Unsteady, I walked to the kitchen and laid the ticket flat beneath the bright overhead light. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, bonus, 18. The numbers stared back at me, innocent as rain. I had chosen them because they meant family birthdays and anniversaries that marked our lives. Margaret would have laughed at the irony. The same family who spent days calling me stupid for buying lottery tickets had just made me a millionaire. $700,000 after taxes, according to the TV. More money than I'd earned in the past decade combined. More money than my father ever saw working the coal mines in Kentucky. But standing there in my kitchen, clutching a $1 million slip of paper, I wasn't thinking about money. I thought about Tatum yanking this ticket from my pocket, calling my hope stupid. I thought about Finnegan's lecture on poor financial choices. I thought about how quickly they tallied what I owed them, but never what they owed me. The ticket felt heavier now, charged with equal parts possibility and revenge. I went to my bedroom and opened the small safe where I kept Margaret's jewelry and our important papers. The lottery ticket slipped inside, next to her wedding ring and the deed to the house. Before closing the door, I glanced at it one last time. Tomorrow I would call my children. Tomorrow I would invite them to dinner at the Rusty Anchor, our old family restaurant. And tomorrow I would see who they truly were when they believed there was nothing left to gain. The safe door clicked shut, a sound like a decision made. Morning light slanted through the window as I dialed the combination on Margaret's old jewelry safe. 3 turns right, 2 left, 1 right. The lottery ticket lay where I'd left it 12 hours earlier, beside her engagement ring and our marriage certificate. $1 million reduced to a slip smaller than a business card. I spread my documents across the kitchen table like a general preparing for battle driver's license, social security card, the claim form I'd printed from the lottery website at dawn. Everything I needed to make this real, to turn those numbers into actual money in my bank account. The 15-minute drive to the post office took me through Milford's quiet streets. Maple leaves blanketed the sidewalks in gold and crimson, and the morning air held that sharp autumn bite that makes anything seem possible. I parked between a rusty pickup and a soccer mom's SUV, then stepped inside, clutching a manila envelope under my arm. Certified mail. The postal clerk, a woman my age with graying hair and kind eyes, weighed my envelope on her digital scale. $8.50 with return receipt. That's fine, I said, handing her a $10 bill. She stuck the green tracking label on the envelope. My ticket's journey to Columbus. How long for delivery? 2 business days, usually. Important documents, I replied. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, phone in front of me like a weapon I was preparing to use. 3 names scribbled on a notepad. 3 children who needed to learn who they really were. Tatum answered on the second ring, her voice sharp with tired irritation. Dad, I'm between clients. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. I wanted to invite you to dinner Saturday night. The whole family. A pause. Background noise from the salon hairdryers, chatter, pop music blaring to distract clients. Dinner at your house, the rusty anchor. My treat. If you're paying, then why not? Her tone softened, shifting from annoyance to something transactional. Can I bring the kids? Kayla has soccer practice at 4, but we could make it by 6. Bring them. I'll make reservations for 7. 7? Who else is coming? Your brothers, Finnegan's wife, a family gathering. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. When was the last time we all had dinner together? Mom's funeral. Her words stung more than she probably meant. Margaret's funeral had been 2 years ago, and yes, that might have been the last time all my children sat at the same table. Saturday, 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I hung up before she could ask more questions and immediately dialed Finnegan's office. Whitaker and Associates, his secretary answered professionally. Finnegan Whitaker, please. This is his father. A brief hold, then Finnegan's carefully controlled voice. Dad, everything all right? You never call the office. I'm calling to invite you to dinner Saturday. The Rusty Anchor, 6 o'clock. Family dinner. Silence stretched between us. I imagined him calculating angles, hunting for hidden motives. What's the occasion, Dad? This isn't like you. Can't a father invite his family to dinner? Of course, but... Another pause. Is this about the lottery ticket? Are you trying to prove a point about family unity? The question revealed more about his mindset than he probably realized. Everything was a debate to win, a point to score. I'm trying to have dinner with my children. Will you come or not? We'll be there, but Dad, if this is some kind of intervention about your spending habits. 6-1, Finnegan. Don't lecture me about my habits until you've paid off your own debts. I hung up harder than necessary and immediately dialed Roderick's number. It rang 5 times before his groggy voice answered. Yeah? It's your father. I'm inviting you to dinner Saturday night. Dinner? I heard him yawn, likely just waking up after working until 3 a.m. at the bar. What time? 6, why so? The Rusty Anchor. Sure, I could eat. That place has good steaks. Who's paying? There it was, the first question every one of my children asked when I offered anything. Not how are you, not what's the occasion, but who's footing the bill? I am, obviously. Cool. 6 in Saturday. Got it. The line went dead without a goodbye. I sank back into my kitchen chair, looking at my notepad. 3 calls, 3 acceptances, 3 variations of the same question. Who's paying? Not one had asked why I wanted to see them, how I was feeling, or what was special about gathering the family. Saturday would reveal everything I needed to know about the people I'd raised. Saturday evening arrived with autumn's early darkness settling over the Rusty Anchor's parking lot. I was the first to arrive as planned and secured our usual round table in the back corner, where Margaret had always insisted we sit for birthdays and anniversaries. Linda, the waitress who'd served our family for 15 years, brought me coffee without asking. Family dinner tonight, Mr. Whitaker. Haven't seen everyone together in a while. Something like that, I replied. I positioned myself with my back to the wall so I could watch every arrival, every interaction, every telling detail of who my children truly were. Tatum swept in at 6:15, her 2 children trailing behind like reluctant satellites. Kayla, 12, had earbuds in and never looked up from her phone. Mason, 9, immediately asked if the restaurant had Wi-Fi. Neither child acknowledged me until Tatum elbowed them. Say hello to Grandpa. Hi, they mumbled together, eyes already scanning for empty chairs far from the adults. Finnegan and Sarah arrived precisely at 6:20. His punctuality was as calculated as everything else in his life. Sarah offered a genuine smile and squeezed my shoulder. She was the only one who seemed happy to see me. Finnegan surveyed the table like a chess player calculating his next move. Roderick sauntered in at 6:35, hair still damp from a quick shower, wearing the same leather jacket he'd owned since college. He dropped into his chair with easy familiarity and immediately flagged down Linda for a beer. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder." There hadn't been traffic in Milford on a Saturday night since the factory closed, but no one challenged the lie. Linda took our drink orders, and I watched my family settle into familiar patterns. Tatum immediately opened her menu to the lowest-priced section. Finnegan studied the wine list as if reviewing a financial prospectus. Roderick ordered the most expensive steak without even glancing at the prices. "So, Dad," Tatum began before we'd even ordered appetizers, "about the kids' school expenses we discussed." "Let's order first," I interrupted, but she pressed on. "Mason needs new soccer cleats, and Kayla's science project requires supplies I just can't afford right now, with the salon being slow and winter coming." "Mom, can we get dessert?" Kayla interrupted without looking up from her screen. "If Grandpa's paying," Tatum replied automatically. Finnegan cleared his throat, the tone of someone used to commanding attention. "Actually, Dad, Sarah and I have been discussing your finances. Those lottery tickets are just throwing money away. I could double your savings in the stock market within 6 months." "Here we go," Roderick muttered, taking a long pull from his beer. "Investment advice from the guy who lost 7 grand on cryptocurrency." "That was a calculated risk based on market research," Finnegan shot back. "Unlike gambling on lottery numbers." "Trust me, I know about gambling," Roderick said with casual authority. "I spent 3 years learning poker tales and probability calculations. The house always wins, Dad. Always." Sarah tried to mediate. "Maybe we could just enjoy dinner without talking about Dad's poor decisions." Tatum's voice carried the edge of someone who'd been holding grudges for weeks. "While he's buying lottery tickets, I'm choosing between groceries and gas money." Mason glanced up from his tablet just long enough to say, "Can we go home now? This is boring." I sipped my coffee, watching them tear into my life choices with the efficiency of vultures picking clean a carcass. Every concern was financial. Every suggestion involved redirecting my money to their needs. Every criticism assumed I was too old, too foolish, too out of touch to manage my own affairs. The main courses arrived, and the conversation shifted to complaints about their jobs, debts, and their endless need for help that always somehow traced back to my wallet. Roderick mentioned rent troubles. Finnegan hinted at business expansion opportunities needing capital. Tatum calculated aloud how much her children's Christmas would cost. Not once did anyone ask about my health, my loneliness, or my memories of their mother. Not once did anyone thank me for the thousands of dollars I'd given them over the past year. They spoke about me as if I were absent, debating my competence and resources, as if I couldn't hear every word. When Linda brought the check, I pulled out my credit card with hands steadier than they'd felt in months. My children watched like auditors reviewing expense reports. "Thanks for dinner, Dad," Tatum said, already gathering her purse and children. "Think about what I said about the school expenses and my investment proposal," Finnegan added. "I'll send you some research materials." Roderick just nodded and headed for the door, probably late for his shift. I sat alone after they scattered to their cars, surrounded by empty plates and the lingering scent of Sarah's perfume. She'd been the only one to hug me goodbye. The restaurant hummed around me with other families laughing, talking, grandparents playing with grandchildren who actually acknowledged their existence. Linda approached with the coffee pot. "Refill, Mr. Whitaker." "No thanks. I think I've learned everything I need to know tonight." Sunday morning brought clarity with the autumn sunlight streaming through my kitchen windows. I sat at the table with a fresh cup of coffee, a blank notebook, and the absolute certainty that my children had failed their first test without even realizing they were being evaluated. Last night's dinner confirmed what Thursday's call suggested. My 3 children saw me as nothing more than a convenient bank account with occasional withdrawal privileges. The only emotions they showed were frustration at my reluctance to hand over money and annoyance at having to ask for it indirectly. I opened the notebook to a clean page and wrote 3 names across the top: Tatum, Finnegan, Roderick. Below each name, I began designing tests to give them one final chance to prove they deserved a single dollar of my lottery winnings. Tatum's test would target her self-centeredness, her assumption that my resources existed solely for her convenience. A health emergency would work, something serious enough to require immediate help, but manageable enough that a loving daughter would drop everything to assist. I wrote, Monday morning, 10 a.m., heart palpitations, need ride to doctor. See if she leaves salon during busy time. The beauty of this test lay in its authenticity. At 68, heart troubles were a real concern. I'd experienced occasional irregular beats since Margaret's death, stress-related, according to my doctor. But Tatum wouldn't know that. A caring daughter would abandon paying customers to help her father get medical care. A selfish daughter would suggest calling an ambulance or asking someone else. Finnegan's test needed a different approach. His controlling nature and intellectual arrogance made him vulnerable to scenarios involving financial advice. I wrote, Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Found savings bonds worth $12,000. Ask for investment guidance. See if he tries to control the money or offers genuine help. This test exploited his belief he knew better than I did about finances. Would he offer honest advice for an elderly man on a fixed income? Or would he immediately try to manage the money himself, treating me like an incompetent child? Roderick's test focused on his irresponsibility and casual attitude toward others' problems. I wrote, Wednesday evening, 7 p.m., lost wallet with pension money at grocery store. Need help searching and filing police report. See if he helps or makes excuses. The timing was crucial. Wednesday was one of his work nights at the bar when tips were usually good. A son who truly cared would sacrifice earning potential to help his father recover money needed for basic living expenses. A selfish son would suggest alternatives to avoid inconvenience. Each test was urgent but manageable, serious but not catastrophic. More importantly, each targeted the specific character flaw I'd seen most clearly at dinner last night. They would have a chance to prove me wrong to show the love and respect I'd hoped to see for 68 years. I made detailed notes defining passing and failing. Passing meant immediate concern for my welfare, willingness to sacrifice convenience, and genuine care rather than cost calculations. Failing meant prioritizing their own needs, avoiding personal inconvenience, or treating my problems as burdens. I have some savings sitting in a basic account, earning nothing. Interest rates are terrible. All these commercials about cryptocurrency and stocks. I trailed off, sounding like an overwhelmed senior citizen. The keyboard clicking stopped. How much are we talking about, Dad? Not, what are your financial goals? Not, what's your risk tolerance? Just, how much money? The question every greedy advisor asks first. Well, I've been careful over the years, saved a bit here and there. I kept it vague, watching his interest spike with the hint of opportunity. Dad, I need specifics to help you properly. Are we talking thousands? 10,000? More? Possibly more. I could almost hear his mental calculator whirring. That's why I need advice. These investment websites are confusing. Listen, Dad. His voice shifted into lecture mode. The the tone he used when explaining technology to someone he considered intellectually inferior. Basic savings accounts are financial suicide. Inflation eats away at your purchasing power every day. I know, son. That's why I called you. Here's what we'll do. Give me control of the account and I'll move everything into a diversified cryptocurrency portfolio. I could triple your money in 6 months. There it was. Not education, not guidance. An immediate power grab. The same controlling instinct that made him lecture me about lottery tickets, now focused on assets he just found out I had. Control of the account. I let confusion creep into my voice. I thought you'd just give me advice. Dad, you don't understand modern investing. It requires constant monitoring, split-second decisions. You can't expect to manage complex financial instruments at your age. At my age? As if turning 68 wiped away decades of managing a household budget, as if I was suddenly incompetent. I could set up automatic transfers, he pressed, gaining momentum. Power of attorney for investment decisions. You'd still have access to spending money, but the real assets would be properly managed by me, by someone who understands markets. Dad, you waste $20 a month on those ridiculous lottery tickets. That alone shows you need professional guidance. That hit sharply. Those ridiculous lottery tickets just made me wealthy beyond his imagination. I gripped the phone tighter, keeping up my confused elderly act as rage simmered beneath the surface. So you want to control my money completely? For your own good, trust me, Dad. In 5 years, you'll thank me when your portfolio has grown exponentially. I looked down at my notebook, already knowing what I'd write. Test 2, meant to see if my son would help or manipulate, had confirmed my suspicions. Given the chance to educate his father about investing, Finnegan immediately tried to seize control of my assets. I need to think about this, I said slowly. Don't think too long. Market opportunities don't wait. Even his final comment was pressure, the classic sales tactic of artificial urgency designed to stop careful thought. I'll call you back, I said, hanging up before he could push more. I opened my notebook and wrote, Test 2 failed. Attempted to gain control of father's assets under guise of financial expertise. Immediate manipulation. No genuine education offered. 2 tests done. 2 failures recorded. 1 last test remaining. Wednesday evening promised final answers. I sat in my living room, low-volume local news murmuring from the TV, preparing for the last test. My notebook lay open. 2 failures marked in neat handwriting. At 9:45, I dialed Murphy's Pub. The phone rang 3 times before Rodri's voice came through, mixed with background noise glasses clinking, sports commentary on TV, the steady hum of regulars. Murphy's, this is Rodri. Son, I'm in trouble. I let genuine worry edge into my voice. Lost my wallet in Riverside Park today. Lost your wallet? I heard him move, probably wiping down the bar while juggling the phone. That sucks, Dad. Cancel your credit cards yet? Don't have credit cards, but I had this week's pension money in there. $150. A pause. Someone called for 2 beers and a whiskey in the background. Hold on, Dad. I listened as he served customers. The familiar rhythm of drinks poured and money exchanged. When he came back, his tone had changed. Sorry about that. Wednesdays are busy. Another pause. Dad, I'd help you out, but I lost big at poker last night. Down $300. $300. He'd gambled away twice what I needed, then admitted it without shame or apology. I have some savings sitting in a basic account, earning nothing. Interest rates are terrible. All these commercials about cryptocurrency and stocks. I trailed off, sounding like an overwhelmed senior citizen. The keyboard clicking stopped. How much are we talking about, Dad? Not, what are your financial goals? Not, what's your risk tolerance? Just, how much money? The question every greedy advisor asks first. Well, I've been careful over the years, saved a bit here and there. I kept it vague, watching his interest spike with the hint of opportunity. Dad, I need specifics to help you properly. Are we talking thousands, 10,000 more? Possibly more. I could almost hear his mental calculator whirring. That's why I need advice. These investment websites are confusing. Listen, Dad. His voice shifted into lecture mode, the tone he used when explaining technology to someone he considered intellectually inferior. Basic savings accounts are financial suicide. Inflation eats away at your purchasing power every day. I know, son. That's why I called you. Here's what we'll do. Give me control of the account and I'll move everything into a diversified cryptocurrency portfolio. I could triple your money in 6 months. There it was. Not education, not guidance, an immediate power grab. The same controlling instinct that made him lecture me about lottery tickets now focused on assets he just found out I had. Control of the account. I let confusion creep into my voice. I thought you'd just give me advice. Dad, you don't understand modern investing. It requires constant monitoring, split-second decisions. You can't expect to manage complex financial instruments at your age, at my age. As if turning 68 wiped away decades of managing a household budget, as if I was suddenly incompetent. I could set up automatic transfers, he pressed, gaining momentum. Power of attorney for investment decisions. You'd still have access to spending money, but the real assets would be properly managed. Properly managed by me. By someone who understands markets. Dad, you waste $20 a month on those ridiculous lottery tickets. That alone shows you need professional guidance. That hit sharply. Those ridiculous lottery tickets just made me wealthy beyond his imagination. I gripped the phone tighter, keeping up my confused elderly act as rage simmered beneath the surface. So you want to control my money completely? For your own good, trust me, Dad. In 5 years, you'll thank me when your portfolio has grown exponentially. I looked down at my notebook, already knowing what I'd write. Test 2, meant to see if my son would help or manipulate, had confirmed my suspicions. Given the chance to educate his father about investing, Finnegan immediately tried to seize control of my assets. I need to think about this, I said slowly. Don't think too long. Market opportunities don't wait. Even his final comment was pressure, the classic sales tactic of artificial urgency designed to stop careful thought. I'll call you back, I said, hanging up before he could push more. I opened my notebook and wrote, Test 2 failed. Attempted to gain control of father's assets under guise of financial expertise. Immediate manipulation. No genuine education offered. 2 tests done. 2 failures recorded. 1 last test remaining. Wednesday evening promised final answers. I sat in my living room, low-volume local news murmuring from the TV, preparing for the last test. My notebook lay open. 2 failures marked in neat handwriting. At 9:45, I dialed Murphy's Pub. The phone rang 3 times before Rodri's voice came through, mixed with background noise glasses clinking, sports commentary on TV, the steady hum of regulars. Murphy's, this is Rodri. Son, I'm in trouble. I let genuine worry edge into my voice. Lost my wallet in Riverside Park today. Lost your wallet? I heard him move, probably wiping down the bar while juggling the phone. That sucks, Dad. Cancel your credit cards yet? Don't have credit cards, but I had this week's pension money in there, $150. A pause. Someone called for 2 beers and a whiskey in the background. "Hold on, Dad." I listened as he served customers. The familiar rhythm of drinks poured and money exchanged. When he came back, his tone had changed. "Sorry about that. Wednesdays are busy." Another pause. "Dad, I'd help you out, but I lost big at poker last night. Down $300. $300. He'd gambled away twice what I needed, then admitted it without shame or apology. The irony was staggering. My son, battling a gambling addiction, refused to help me because of his losses. $300, I said, my voice tinged with shock. "Roderick, you said you'd quit poker." "I mostly have. Just a bad night," he shrugged. "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose." And last night he lost my week's grocery money. "Don't guilt-trip me, Dad," he snapped defensively, already shifting blame. "Could you sell those old tools in the garage? They're worth something." My tools, the wrenches, saws, and hammers I'd collected over decades, the tools I used to fix everything around the house. He wanted me to sell my life's work to replace money he'd lost gambling. "Roderick, I need help, not suggestions on how to help myself." I know, but I'm tapped out." Someone called his name across the bar. "Maybe you finally won something on those lottery tickets," he joked. That hit me like a blow. Sitting there, holding a $1 million lottery ticket, listening to my addicted son mock my habit while refusing to help me recover pension money. The cosmic joke was almost too perfect. "The lottery tickets are a waste," he continued, echoing his siblings. "But hey, maybe tonight's your lucky night." If only they knew. If only any of them knew I'd already won what they thought impossible. But their ignorance revealed everything. Even in my emergency, Roderick's first instinct was to dodge responsibility and suggest ways that wouldn't inconvenience him. "So, you can't help?" I asked quietly. "Dad, if I had it, you know I would. But 300 down is 300 down. I'm barely covering rent." Barely covering rent because he gambled away his income. The pattern was clear. Irresponsibility leading to crisis, then passing the burden to the father they all thought foolish. "I understand," I said. Understanding and accepting were different things. "Maybe hit up Finnegan. He's got that IT money." Passing responsibility, avoiding accountability, never sacrificing when it's inconvenient. "I'll figure something out," I said. "Sorry, Dad. Really? If my luck changes tonight, I'll call you." He hung up, returning to a night of earning money he'd likely lose again. I closed my notebook slowly. 3 children, 3 chances to show love over selfishness. 3 spectacular failures. Each test required minimal sacrifice. 30, honest advice, or a borrowed 150. None passed, but I knew someone who would. Ellis's number was at the bottom of my contacts, added after Margaret's funeral. Tomorrow I would call my nephew and see what real family loyalty looked like. Thursday evening settled over my empty house like a heavy shroud. I sat in my recliner, the notebook containing the 3 documented failures closed on my lap, staring into the fireplace where Margaret and I used to sit on autumn nights just like this. The silence felt heavier than usual, filled with the bitter realization that I had raised 3 strangers who merely shared my blood. At 7:30 the phone rang, slicing through my melancholy like an unexpected lifeline. "Uncle Harlan." Ellis's voice carried a warmth I hadn't heard from family in weeks. The simple sound of his voice made something tighten in my chest. "Ellis, son, good to hear from you. Mom mentioned some family stress when I called her last weekend. Said Tatum and the boys have been pretty demanding. You doing okay?" I pressed the phone closer, struck by the genuine concern in his voice. When had any of my own children asked if I was okay without first figuring out what they could get from me? "I'm managing." You know how it is with family. I do know, actually. That's why I'm calling. I heard papers rustle in the background, probably grading assignments. Uncle Harlan, you've always been too generous with everyone. Sometimes people take advantage of that. The phrase hit exactly where it needed to. The 3 failed tests had proven that's precisely what my children had been doing for years. You might be right about that, Ellis. Look, I know it's not my place and I'm way down here in Toledo, but if you need anything, money, help around the house, just company, I'm here. I could drive up this weekend. I stared at my closed notebook, then at the phone in my hand. Ellis was offering help without being asked, without expecting anything in return, without calculating what it might cost him, everything my own children had failed to do. That's very kind of you, son. It's not kindness, it's family, real family. His voice held the conviction that reminded me of his father, my brother Tom. Uncle Harlan, I've always looked up to you. After Dad died, you made sure I had what I needed for college. Remember that? I did. $2,000 for Ellis's textbooks and dorm expenses, given without hesitation when Tom's insurance didn't cover everything. Ellis had sent thank-you letters for months afterward, updating me on his grades, his teaching goals, and his gratitude for the chance I'd given him. You paid that back, Ellis. Every penny. Because you taught me debts matter. Responsibility matters. But more than that, you showed me what love looks like. He paused, and I heard him move around his apartment. I'm sorry my cousins don't see that. Not his siblings, not his family. He understood the difference between blood relatives and chosen family better than the children I'd raised. Ellis, you've always been special. Your father would be proud of the man you've become. I learned from good examples. You and Dad, mostly you, after he passed. Another pause. Uncle Harlan, I'm serious about helping. Whatever you need, whenever you need it. No questions asked. No questions asked. The exact opposite of every interaction I'd had with my children recently. They asked questions constantly. How much? When? What would I get in return? Why couldn't I handle it myself? I appreciate that more than you know. Family takes care of family. That's what you taught me. After we hung up, I sat in my recliner for a long time, holding the phone and thinking about the conversation. Ellis had called not because he needed something, but because he'd heard I might. He'd offered help without conditions, asked about my well-being without calculations, and expressed genuine gratitude for past kindness instead of entitlement to future support. I opened my notebook to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote, Ellis Whitaker, True Family. Below, I began planning how to ensure that real loyalty would be rewarded. The lottery ticket in my safe wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to someone who understood what family truly meant. A week later, I drove toward Columbus with documents that would change everything. The October morning carried the crisp promise of autumn's peak, golden sunlight slanting through my windshield as I navigated downtown traffic toward the Ohio Lottery Commission building. I parked in the government lot and passed through security, clutching my manila envelope under one arm like a businessman carrying contracts. The guard directed me to the 3rd floor, where a receptionist with kind eyes and a professional smile verified my appointment. Mr. Whitaker, congratulations. Ms. Rodriguez will handle your claim. Maria Rodriguez looked about Finnegan's age, wearing a navy suit and carrying the competent demeanor of someone accustomed to processing life-changing moments daily. Her office walls displayed framed photos of lottery winners, ordinary people holding oversized checks, their faces bright with disbelief and joy. Please have a seat. Let's verify your winning ticket. I handed her the slip of paper that had caused so much family turmoil. She scanned it under a special light, checked the numbers against her computer system, and nodded with satisfaction. Confirmed. 1 million jackpot. October 10th, drawing. You have the winning ticket. She looked up with genuine warmth. How does it feel to be a millionaire, Mr. Whitaker? Like justice, I said, then caught myself. I mean, surprising. Very surprising. She smiled and began explaining the process. Federal taxes would take 37, state taxes 4, leaving me with approximately 700,000. I could choose annual payments over 20 years or a lump sum. The choice was simple. Lump sum, please. I have specific plans for this money. Excellent. Let me prepare the paperwork. For the next 45 minutes, I signed forms, provided identification, answered questions about tax withholding and bank deposits. Ms. Rodriguez explained winner services, media policies, and financial advisor recommendations. Everything felt surreal. Bureaucratic procedures transforming abstract numbers into concrete wealth. Your check for 700,000, Mr. Whitaker. She handed me a piece of paper that weighed nothing but represented everything. Congratulations again. Any immediate plans for your winnings? Taking care of family, I said. The family that deserves it. I drove to Riverside Park afterward, finding a quiet bench overlooking the Scioto River. The check felt substantial in my hands despite its lightness. 700,000, more money than I'd earned in the last 15 years combined. But the amount wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the justice it represented. Ellis would receive 500,000 for the house, enough to secure his future, pay off any teaching-related debts, maybe pursue graduate school or travel during summers. Money that would go to someone who demonstrated genuine care without expectation of reward. The remaining 200,000 would cover my living expenses for whatever years remained. I'd never need to ask my children for anything again. More importantly, they'd never have the opportunity to treat my financial needs as inconveniences, to be avoided or manipulated for their own gain. Autumn leaves drifted past my bench, carried by gentle river breezes that smelled of change and possibility. Tomorrow I would call my children one final time, inviting them to dinner for a conversation that would reshape our family forever. They would learn that actions have consequences, that love has value, and that the father they dismissed as foolish had been wiser than they'd ever imagined. I folded the check carefully and placed it in my wallet next to Ellis's phone number. Tomorrow would bring the reckoning they'd earned through their own choices. Saturday evening brought me back to the Rusty Anchor for the final act of this family drama. I sat in my car in the parking lot, checking the lottery documents one last time. The winning ticket, the official claim verification, and the folded check that would change everything. Linda seated us at the same table as before, the cosmic irony not lost on me. Tatum arrived with her children, Finnegan with Sarah, Roderick punctual for once. They settled into familiar patterns, Tatum studying the cheaper menu options, Finnegan analyzing the wine list, Roderick ordering premium steak without checking prices. "So, what's the occasion this time, Dad?" Finnegan asked after we'd ordered. "2 family dinners in 2 weeks seems unlike you." "Just wanted to see everyone," I replied, cutting my chicken with deliberate precision. The conversation flowed along predictable channels. Tatum mentioned the kids' upcoming expenses. Finnegan hinted at investment opportunities. Roderick complained about slow tip nights. None of them asked about my health, my loneliness, or how I'd been spending my days since our last dinner. When Linda brought dessert, apple pie for the grandchildren, coffee for the adults, I knew the moment had arrived. "I have something to tell you all." I set down my coffee cup with steady hands. "I won the lottery 2 weeks ago." Silence. Complete. Absolute silence. Even the grandchildren looked up from their phones. Won what lottery? Tatum's voice carried the skeptical tone of someone accustomed to disappointment. I reached into my jacket and placed the winning ticket on the table. 1 million, October 10th. Drawing. Here's the ticket. Finnegan grabbed it first, studying the numbers with the intense focus of someone calculating angles. These are the numbers you always play. Family birthdays, your mother's, yours, your siblings, Ellis's too. $1 million. Rodri's voice cracked slightly. Dad, are you serious? I pulled out the lottery commission verification and the check, spreading them across the table like evidence in a trial. 700,000 after taxes. Right here. The transformation was immediate and predictable. Tatum's eyes filled with tears, not of joy for my good fortune, but of desperate calculation. Finnegan leaned forward with the aggressive posture of someone preparing to take charge. Rodri stared at the check with the focused attention of a gambler seeing his salvation. Dad, this is incredible. Tatum reached across the table as if to touch the documents. We need to be smart about this. The kids' college funds, my mortgage. Actually, Finnegan interrupted, the priority should be proper investment strategy. Dad, you'll need professional financial management. Hold on, I said quietly, and something in my tone made them both stop talking. Before anyone starts planning how to spend my money, let me tell you about the past 2 weeks. I looked at each of them in turn. I tested you, all 3 of you. Confusion flickered across their faces. Tatum, Monday the 14th. I called with chest pains, needed $30 for a taxi to see a heart specialist. You were too busy with highlights to help, but you asked me for $80 for a dress. Her face went pale. Finnegan, Tuesday the 15th. I asked for investment advice about some savings. Instead of helping, you immediately tried to take control of my money. That was professional guidance. Rodri, Wednesday the 16th. I lost my wallet with pension money. You couldn't help because you'd lost $300 gambling. Rodri's mouth opened, then closed without sound. Each of you failed a simple test. When your father needed help, you prioritized your own interests. When I asked for small amounts, you either refused or tried to manipulate the situation for your own benefit. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle like a stone dropped in a still pond. You showed no concern for my well-being, only for what you could gain or avoid losing. None of you acted like family. The room was heavy with silence, thick and suffocating. Tatum's eyes glistened with tears, this time shame rather than calculation. Finnegan's jaw clenched tightly. Rodri couldn't meet my gaze, looking down at the table instead. I kept that lottery ticket safe, I said, not for myself, but for the one person who proved they truly cared. I reached into my wallet and placed the folded check next to the ticket. That person is Ellis. The words hung in the air like a final judgment that could not be denied. You've lost the chance to share in this. Instead, I'm giving Ellis $500,000 to secure his future, pay off debts, pursue his dreams. He showed loyalty when none of you did. I looked each of them in the eyes, seeing the sting of regret, the flicker of realization, but also the stubbornness that had always held them back. Your actions have consequences. This family's legacy will not be built on entitlement, but on respect, love, and responsibility. I stood up slowly, folding the documents carefully. The grandchildren stared in silence. My children sat stunned. Without another word, I walked out of the restaurant, the cool autumn air welcoming me like a new beginning. Tonight marked the end of an era and the start of a future where loyalty and love finally mattered. The restaurant continued its Saturday evening rhythm around us. Other families enjoyed normal dinners while ours imploded with the force of accumulated truth. But Ellis, I continued, and I watched their faces change at the mention of their cousin. Ellis called Thursday evening. No agenda, no requests, just checking on my welfare because he'd heard about family stress. He offered help without being asked. Money, time, company, whatever I needed. Tatum's voice turned sharp with desperation. He's not even your son. No, I said firmly, but he understands what family means. Real family. I stood up slowly. My decision crystallized into action. Ellis will receive $500,000 in the house. He's earned it through genuine care and respect. The explosion was immediate. Tatum began crying, real tears this time, mixed with rage and desperation. Finnegan started calculating legal challenges, his voice rising with indignation about unfairness and manipulation. Rodri just stared at the table, understanding finally settling over his features like a slow-moving storm. "Dad, you can't be serious," Tatum sobbed. "We're your children." Children who treated me like a bank account with legs. Children who criticized my lottery tickets while planning how to spend my winnings. I pulled out my wallet and placed exact change on the table for my portion of the dinner. Ellis never asked for anything. That's why he deserves everything. Sarah, who had remained silent throughout the revelation, touched my arm gently. "Mr. Whitaker, I understand you're hurt, but maybe—" "Sarah, you're a good woman. I'm sorry you're married to someone who sees his father as a financial resource instead of a person." I walked toward the restaurant exit without looking back, their voices rising behind me in a chorus of protests, accusations, and desperate bargaining. The autumn air felt clean after the suffocating atmosphere of family disappointment. In my car, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Ellis's number. Time to call my real heir and share news that would change his life forever. Justice, it turned out, felt exactly like walking away from people who'd never deserved your love in the first place. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.